Welcome to Comic Cave, the podcast where art and imagination collide. I'm your host, DnDWife, and joining me every episode is Couple of Nerds' very own master artist, Entlynk.
Each week, we dive into the creative process behind incredible art, from comics and character designs to the vibrant world of Extrayus and beyond.
Whether you're an artist, an art lover, or here just for the good vibes, there's a seat for you at the cave. So let's create something magical. So yeah, let's step into today's episode. I am so excited for today. It is a study of the Helscarred. It's a homebrew campaign, or a homebrew species. Yeah, species that we created for our world of Extrayus that we play D&D in. And the overall, if you can see it on the screen here, theming of this start is going to be the 7 deadly sins. A lot of these Helscarred are based off of those 7 deadly sins, and that's the major theming for our world of Extrayus, for hell at least, and for the demons that exist there. And for this particular piece, we're going to be looking at Goroth's children, or the children of gluttony. I'm so excited to start covering this because originally I had looked at the descriptions that my husband DM Egile had made for the Helscarred, and I fell in love with the descriptions, and they weren't even that intricate or that specific or anything like that. They were maybe 2 or 3 lines worth of descriptor, so it wasn't anything crazy.
I think that's even better. Yeah. Oftentimes is like when you have just enough to spark that inspiration in you.
Absolutely.
And you have so much room to like play around with the design. That's cool.
It really gives you kind of a freedom to express a lot of the things that you wouldn't if you were just faced with exactly how it looked at every step of the way.
Which, no hate, because like as someone who receives commissions from time to time, like it's wonderful when someone has like, no real reference images, but they're giving you like a very good description. So, but I can tell that you had a lot of fun playing with this design and figuring out all the little details.
Oh yeah, it was super fun. And I really liked the theming of this one to start. One of my favorite colors is gray. And for gluttony, that was the major theming of the start for this. So the skin tone is very gray. It's got little bits of hue in there to switch it up a bit. It alternates between a little bit of a purple hue in the gray and a little bit of like a green hue in the gray. So it can make you look either bruised or sickly if you're not careful, right? And so I really liked this color combo for gluttony because it makes it feel like they're maybe a little on the downside and need something more. That's what gluttony needs, is a little more. So
like their skin is just always flushed in some disconcerting way.
It needs something. It needs a little bit, right?
And I love what you've done with the eyes as well. I think that also conveys that type of yearning. They're very intense.
I wanted to keep with the theme of gray in this, and so I increased or made the skin tones larger, and then within them I did a little bit of the eye work, and so you can see here for the purple I kept that theme. I did a little bit of a purple eye. Even the eyelashes have hints of purple and highlights of a lighter purple in there, and the eye itself has a lot of purple as well. The green has its own color scheme as well, and it matches the theming of the gray hued skin. So they're really nice compliments to the skin tones that they have. And then I also included this what I call the puppy dog look in the eyes, because I wanted it to have this may I have some more kind of look? Please, you wouldn't deny me, right? And so that's what they're all about, right? Getting as much as they can. That's what gluttony is about, getting as much as you can with whatever means necessary. And so I always imagine that they would have this yearning look in their eyes, this please, you must help me.
I'm so cute. Of course you're gonna give me seconds,
right? So I really, really liked this look, and just thinking about the Helscarred in general, I really fell in love with their descriptions, and I wanted to bring up a little bit more of what they looked like, not just for myself because I was really interested, but also just to help with the character creation for our world. I know that having visual sort of references for things really helps bring that reality into someone's head. And so the kind of purpose of creating these studies was to bring that to reality for my eye in my brain, and then also as well for the players in Extrayus, because we're working on a little side story where some of us are playing Helscarred, and I wanted to have references for what they would look like in case we did artwork for it later, right? Then they can go to whoever they commission, or whether it's Entlynk, another artist, or myself, then they can provide an amazing reference for them, to whoever the artist is, to be able to build exactly the character that they envisioned. And they don't have to worry about it being like, oh, well, they don't know what it looks like, or they don't quite have the idea that I had in mind. You can share this with someone and be like, this is what it actually looks like. People will have a visual reference, and nobody has to worry about getting confused.
It's great that you've put in that extra effort in the forefront to kind of establish like, hey, this is like the vibe.
Yeah.
Like there's a more like, you have room to play, of course, if with your individual characters, but I do feel like that's a great point that you like, by doing this and standardizing, personalizing a homebrew design like this, it's even informing us at the table about NPCs that we encounter, because we're going to have these like visual cues and all this symbolism that you've described about the designs. It'll just inform not just about other player characters, but even NPCs.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about that. This is how we're going to be able to know what others look like. So that's fantastic. And I also didn't want to draw up a full character with the descriptions I was given, because that also tends to put things in a box, right? If I mock up a whole character, then that's kind of the defining character for the species, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create little references to the different aspects of what these Helscarred would look like, giving whoever up the descriptions the ability to mix and match and make them look the way they want it, without having to worry about like, oh, well, this is what they wanted it to look like, so I have to keep within these certain lines or this certain aesthetic.
I do think that is probably the smartest thing and like coolest thing that you did with it, is because I think you forethought about that psychologically, where if you had like a character already made, people would maybe think, oh, I have to have this type of characteristic, even if it's not one of these core characteristics. That's not what you were conveying. Because even like when talking to my partner Thomas, who for the side story, he's making a Helscarred character. I won't say which sin, but he was talking to me about it. He's like, well, there's already like this kind of like rubric almost, and I'm just like, but that's just like key features. You could have like a really pronounced chin. You could have like a crazy hairstyle, like who knows, like there's so much more to add on to this like base characteristics.
Absolutely. And also I want to point out, these are just suggestions. Just because I made the references doesn't mean this is law, and every Helscarred must look like this if they are of the gluttony section. That's not necessarily true. There are going to be variances. So like the eyes, they might have less yearning in them. They might have variances of color. So sure, the purple and green hues of the skin are the most prominent, but you may have maybe a green glutton and a purple glutton who fell in love, got together, and had a child who was a little bit of a mixed color of both.
And I believe there's also variations in the horns and tail, correct?
There are. So I've provided an example of just a few, one or two variations, but actually just one. But you can make them thinner. You can make them taller. It's all about keeping with the theme of the species itself, right? Gluttony is all about more, constantly more, all that yearning. So you want the physical traits to kind of represent that. If the horns are going to be large, make them large. They're bigger than life. If you don't want them to be large, then make them as diminutive, as small as you can, because maybe they're yearning for larger horns. Maybe that's a part of their shtick as a glutton Helscarred. There's all sorts of ways that you can change things and adapt them to your gameplay and to what you want your character to look like.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be restrictive on like, well, this is what it has to look like, or else it's not a Helscarred, or it's not that kind.
Right. You never know. Some people online are super protective of their designs, which is like respect. I get it. But like, I think that it's, especially when informed by a setting like a TTRPG, like D&D, like that's what the magic is you want to see how people are going to like twist it into and put their own spin on it.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to do these references, these studies of just the different, like, important bits of it, like just what they might look like. It's not a rule of thumb that you have to do it this way. But in moving on, we're going to cover the horns here for a bit, which I've really spent a lot of time on because I just really liked the description of the horns. They have these like cracked growth sections where it's divided and it's like kind of like growing in cracked formations. I just really like that. And I gave it a sort of like dirty brown gray kind of hue. And again, these are just sort of suggestions. You can change the hue and the tone of the horns. They don't have to be completely gray. I would just say maybe keep a tone of gray in there. And it could even just be a highlight or something, just a nod, if you want to keep with that theme. But frankly, D&D is all about making your own rules, and you know, if you want a bright red horned gluttony demon, as long as you can, or a gluttony Helscarred, as long as you can create some sort of reason why, I think you can be fine.
There's so much variation, and like I could even see off of that, like because they have those kind of like ridges that indicate like growth, almost like a stone erosion or like a tree even. My initial thought of adding color is to like make it like a banded, you know. Ooh, like
different colors on the bands.
You know how when you can like see like the cut of like a cliff face or something, and there's different stratifications in the rock. That would be cool.
I like that. See, that's a really cool variation to get. I would love to see that put to paper. I think that would look really cool.
Get to work, you guys. Post the art in the Discord.
But yeah, and for the horns, I also wanted them to be a little stockier, a little, you know, I guess that I wanted them to have a little heft. So they're short and they're stocky, but I didn't want to give off the feeling of fat. Like everyone thinks that gluttony means fat, and I don't necessarily agree with that. It just means more. Like I said, it just means I want more constantly. So they're short and they're stocky, but that's because they're big horns, and they kind of need to be a little shorter so they don't weigh your head down, you know? So that was my idea for that.
I totally get that too. Like, I don't know, something about the texture you've given them, it does read very like density to me,
right? Like heavy horns, and that's definitely the vibe I wanted to give them. That's why I wanted to kind of give them this shape, and they're curved, so they've got a very sharp curve and very sharp tips. You do not want to get you don't want to touch the tip of that. But I really liked how these horns came out.
They look fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to see them on an actual character.
I could tell like the effort that you put in, and I have to point out the on the ridges you have like the lightest highlight and the darkest shadow right up next to each other, and that just perfectly gives it that like intense depth that those little cracks need. It looks really good.
Yeah, the only thing I would say as a criticism of my own work is I might have to blend that highlight down a little bit to make it a little more seamless. But this is just a study. It's not meant to be a finished product.
But that's what it's for, right? Is you can look back at it and be like, okay, these are what I need to like focus in on in my second pass. Yeah. That's cool.
Absolutely. So when I do create a character for gluttony, or if someone else does and they can make that decision, make it look even better, I would love to see that for sure. Put them in the Discord. I'd love to see what they look like. But then we move on to the tail here. And I wanted to keep in with that theme of short and stocky. I want and this is all according to the description as well. They don't have very long or thin tails. They're thick, they're muscular, and they've got these really short, blunt spikes on them, kind of like a stegosaurus.
I think. I need to brush up on my dinosaurs.
I do too. But yeah, you'll see. You can see them in the video here. They're very short. They're stocky, and they cover a lot of the tail as a sort of like armament. Because more is better, of course. More spikes. your gluttony, you want to keep that aesthetic, and it follows that same hue of gray. I think I put a little bit of the purple in there to give it that hue. And then for the horns themselves, they've got that sort of dirty gray variation to them. I didn't put too much detail into this as well because the tails can have a lot of variance to them, and also you can change up the colors, change up the amount of spikes, the I guess the sharpness of them, their thickness, their thinness. There's all sorts of cool ways that you can adapt this concept. So I just wanted to leave it simple so that it gave room for growth.
Yeah, I feel like it's simple yet the textures convey exactly what they need to. Like I really love the shape that you've given them. Like the shading almost, correct me if I'm wrong, but the shading almost gives me like a quadrant diamond type of, okay, cool. That's exactly what I was getting.
Yeah.
And I really like that because that also makes me just kind of like, branch off into like, oh, they could be crystalline maybe, or they could be like a little sharper, jagged maybe, like they're overgrowing almost.
Absolutely. As they get older or something, right? That would be really cool. And I just want to point out, right, these Helscarred, they're not inherently evil. A lot of the like D&D 5e with tieflings, they like to point out a lot that the tieflings tend to sometimes turn to the dark side or turn to more nefarious activities because they are basically pushed by society into it because they think, oh, well, everybody assumes I'm evil. I might as well live up to that. And so we didn't want that to be our Helscarred, our hell-touched humans or people in our world. We wanted it to be a little different. In our world, the Helscarred they tend to err on the side of extreme good because they're so worried about being taken over by their demon or their sin. They're so worried about being overtaken by that. This is where the habit of throwing holy water in everyone they meet's faces, because they're so worried of allowing a demon or someone touched by demonic power into their midst, into their societies. So they tend to be actually very good people, and these signs of their demonic, their sinful touch, they actually don't really like them. They sometimes tend to hide them. A lot of them tend to wear a lot of bulky armor that's carved in runes, and that also tends to give them a more menacing look when in fact it's just for protection to ensure that they're not possessed. A lot of them tend to be paladins too. So it's really interesting to see how the pendulum swings a little differently.
That is cool. Yeah, it really is in the opposite direction. Like if society wasn't I guess pushing them or like automatically being, oh well, you're bad, so and then like, okay, well, let me just prove it then. Now they've garnered that reputation of being very staunch and very like pearl clutchy, I guess.
Yeah, they, like I said, they err on the side of extreme good, but because they've also faced a little bit of that backlash from the surrounding humans, they've had to deal with a little bit of like, oh, they're touched by demons, they might be evil. And so this actually has been an adaptation to combat that view of the other humans. It's like, no, we are going to be good. We are going to be as good as we can because we don't want to be associated with our sin. We don't want to fall prey to that evil.
That's cool.
They've actually spent a lot of work over the last few centuries, like trying to build up that good credibility.
So they've had pushback from, I guess, like Humes or people who are more like, I guess, adjacent to them.
Yeah, just like anybody who's like, I'm not going to deny that because anyone who's different tends to get a little bit of that, right?
But then that's cool that they had the opportunity to, with other groups, present themselves and then be like, oh, no, we are very like against that. Yeah, that's
this
cool.
is why they've built those bonds with the Richeliums that are next door. They try to be as good as they can. So I think that's why I like this difference, is that we are portraying these sins on basically the features of these Helscarred people, but they don't have to be defined by the sin that touches them, essentially.
That's really cool. Yeah. But I think that's just another really delicious layer of this like characters design as well, is that like their physicality is, even in the abstract, informed by their lineage. But they don't like that. Like it's on their face. They have to wear it day in, day out, but they're just like, no, I'm doing everything in my power to negate that or push back
Absolutely.
on it.
Absolutely. And as we get further into the Helscarred series, we'll see that some of them cover themselves up as completely as they possibly can because they don't want to, give off whatever effect that sin puts off for them.
Or even speaking.
Yeah.
Like, I won't, again, reveal what it
Too
is,
much.
but another character in this side campaign
Yeah.
is our characters are going to be working as partners. And so what I know is that they, because of their lineage, they don't even want to risk speaking to me, to risk me hearing the allure of their voice.
Yeah.
Like, they would rather, use magic and items to speak directly into my mind because
Hell,
it's
they'll
that
write
bad.
on a piece of paper. Yeah.
Right? Just passing notes.
And that's what I love about portraying these little sections of references is that it gives us the idea of what they could look like. Which brings me to my next point is I want to talk about how creating your own references can be such a good thing for both the artists, the people around the artist, those who are commissioning from an artist, those like us that kind of create art for our own tables and work with our friends on art. Creating your own references sometimes is not only important but necessary because there are certain things in fantasy that we might not have a reference for yet, or that something we can't find a reference out there that works for us, right? Like Google has a bunch of reference photos, but to find like the exact one that fits you sometimes is very difficult or impossible, even with the plethora of choices that are out there.
And a lot of times, like, what this allows you to do is to take real world references that you are inspired by, but then you get to like kind of mash them together. So then you have this unique look.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's what you want to like standardize and make sure that you have accurate for other iterations or whatever you happen to be working on.
Absolutely. I love that. It gives you also a sense of control over what you make. Like I said, I didn't want to make a full character because I didn't want people to be bogged down into, oh, this is what they look like. They have to be this tall or they have to be this, they have to look this certain way. The actual, like you said, the variances of facial features, of body build, those can all differ.
Yeah.
It can all change. And so it doesn't have to be the exact same thing. And that's why I like about these building just references for yourself, not full mock-ups yet. Start with the references, start with the little thumbnails. There's a reason why artists create sketches before they create full-blown works of art. It helps to start building that image up in your head and sort of plan it out, find what works, find what doesn't. Like I said, right, the horns, I might blend that highlight down a little bit further to make it look a little better. Or an artist that gets it later might make other changes to it that might make it look way better. I'm just so excited to see how this can grow and get a little fun.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to like, it's obviously like there's merits to making these references, but then like that's the point, right? Is to like build off of it as well. Like I've seen people talk online about being, I guess, like nervous or scared of like, like I posted this character before, but now they look a little bit different. Like I updated the design and it's like, yeah, it's okay to update your designs. They can change a little bit.
Right? People change all the time. Hell, I could go out tomorrow and get a different haircut and look like a completely different person or dye my hair.
Yeah.
Things change and they can change overnight. So I wouldn't feel too worried if you're like, oh, I want to change up the way my character looks a little bit,
Yeah. I think that's just fun and like part of the process because that's what you want is like it's almost like a yes and in a way where it's like just follow that train of thought and if it looks good,
then you're golden. Absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that creating these references is a really good way for artists to practice, right? You don't have to worry about having an unfinished product necessarily, but you can focus on working on those little things that you might not be very good at. Like I tend to be very, I need a little work on my portrait work, on my character work. So I wanted to create these studies to work on that, or work on my eyes, my different features of things. So later, yes, I will start working on body parts and how like the musculature looks and stuff like that. But I wanted to start off simply with just the basic descriptions of what they look like first.
Yeah. I think that's really awesome. And I think you're totally right in that repetition, no matter what you're doing, the repetition is what's going to stick with you.
Absolutely.
That's the practice. And like, again, like you said, you don't have to see every sketch through. Like, you don't have to render everything.
Yeah,
Like, you can just leave it. Yeah, like you want the fundamentals practice. So
you always
work
want
on
to start
that.
off with that. Yeah. And it's always great. Like it feels like you're not, I guess, making as much progress. I tend to be very impatient. I want things to get done now, but that's not really the way art works. It's like a soup or like a good stew, right? It takes time to build that flavor. It takes patience to let it simmer, let it boil, let it get up to that place where it is completed, finished,
Yeah.
and really good.
Half of it is what I like to say too, or what I like to tell people is that, like, yeah, like the practice with your hands and actually doing the thing is good. But the other half of it is like observation, like having your artist brain on while you're observing the lighting or the way something is shaded, like a particular like 3D form, whatever you happen to be looking at. Like, I don't know, the lighting and the gradient on the gimbal that I'm looking at right now is like, you know, you can see like what is against like the highest contrast, like what creates a sharp edge. Like, it could be super mundane, but you can have your artist hat on still.
Absolutely. And you can take all sorts of different everyday things and apply them to your references as well. Use that inspiration. It also gives you like that ability to like point out details because you're looking at specific details to render, to draw out. So it makes you a little more observant in the long run. And that's what I appreciate about this. Yeah.
That's really cool. But no, really cool that you've like done this whole project to like kind of give us as a table that like foundation, I guess. It really does like, I think, inform the character creation. It's really valuable.
Absolutely. I'm really excited, like you said, about this series. I want to keep covering it. For the next one, we're going to be looking at the Greed Helscarred.
Ooh.
I'm so excited. I put so much work into that one because I just was really entranced by the description for that one. But yeah, we're going to be covering it. I'm working on some other ones as well. So we'll be going and getting that all covered. I'm super excited. And I just want to give a shout out there to fellow artists that if you have any artwork or if you do some work on these references and you mock up a character or something you want to share, please share it on our Discord. Let us know. The Couple of Nerds Discord is always open to artists, especially new artists out there who are just trying to kind of put their work out there. I always love to help out.
Click the links.
Yeah, all the links.
all the links, all the buttons.
Yep. We're not charging for showcasing your art or anything like that. I just want to put art out there. I think we should be discussing it more. I think we should be coming up with new things better. That's the sign of a really healthy society when we're constantly creating and innovating. And art is part of that.
Totally. Building up a community and just being able to, like, you know, put a spotlight on someone who's just starting out.
Absolutely. And you never know, we might showcase it on one of these her comic caves. I keep bouncing between the different podcast names, but we will show it on the comic cave, give you credit, let everybody know who made it, and kind of discuss the artwork, the style, and you know what it brings to society, what it brings to us, what
and
it
we
helps
get to
us
look
feel.
at beautiful art.
Yeah.
It's for us. We're selfishly, we just want to look at pretty
Super
things.
selfish.
That's all.
But we encourage you guys to reach out and let us know what you think. And yeah, we'll just keep covering the Helscarred and perhaps covering some more new artists. I'm super excited for that.
Really excited for the rest of the series, especially with Greed next. I'm so hyped. But
I'm so excited to show you guys. I've spent a lot of time on that one. Yep.
But with that, that's it for this episode of Comic Cave. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us and diving deep into the world of art and storytelling.
Absolutely. Make sure to follow, like, and review the podcast. And don't forget to join us on the Couple of Nerds Discord to see the art, share your work, and connect with other creatives. Until next time,
keep drawing, keep dreaming, and keep being nerdy.